A world of MAGA meltdowns and loopy lefties where one of the great philosophical questions of our era is, what is racism? Is there a difference between white racism and black racism? Or indeed, is there a difference between white tears and black tears? This is hardcore lefty TV host Joy Reid mocking the insincerity of white people's tears, in particular, white male tears.
There's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears. Really white tears in general, because that's what Karens are, right? They Karen out, and then as soon as they get caught, it's like, Green Waterworks. White men can get away with that too, and it has the same effect.
Joy Reid also loves accusing whites of racism.
War against the black past. It's illegal to make white people feel uncomfortable in Florida. From the Tea Party on, they're voting on race. The idea that they can't get whatever job they want, a black person got it, therefore drive all the blacks out of the colleges.
What nonsense. And here she is again with yet another hairdo, mocking again MAGA tears.
Well, here's an alternative thought. Make your own dinner, MAGA. Make your own sandwiches, wipe your own tears, troll amongst yourselves with Elon, and leave us alone.
Okay, we'll wipe our own white tears, fair enough. But are we allowed to mock Joy and her black tears?
I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And this is kind of like being on TV, so I apologize. And then it mattered. I see Karen is there, and she's been texting me as well. And so what I will just say is that in the end, thank you. Where I land is that the moment of guilt that I felt.
Wow, guilt, a whole roll of absorbent paper towels to wipe away the flood of her tears. So many tears. Joy is clearly upset, so we won't mock her tearful sincerity, but what precisely was Joy so sincerely and tearfully upset about? Starving kids in the Congo? Homeless mums in Haiti? No, Joy was crying that flood of black tears because something truly terrible had just happened. She just lost her TV show due to poor ratings.
My show had value, and that, I'm sorry, that what I was doing had value.
I do. Thank you. I do empathise. I lost my own show too, Joy, and don't worry, Joy. You'll cope. I got mine back. You might too. But back to our philosophical discussion about white racism versus black racism. Needless to say, fellow lefty TV host on MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, seems to be suggesting white racism is behind Joy's tearful departure.
I will tell you, it is also unnerving to see that on a network where we've got two non-white hosts in primetime, both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows.
Or perhaps Joy got sacked because endlessly accusing white Americans of being racist has kind of become a little bit boring. Joy Reid, who apart from declaring whites were racists, also happily accused whites, and in particular MAGA Republicans, of being fascists.
Laid out the stakes in this crucial election, where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism, namely a far-right dictatorial regime like Hitler's Germany.
And so on. But tearful Joy Reid wasn't the only person to grab the fascist label with gusto when it came to expressing their chronic Trump derangement syndrome. Here's Stephen Fry, the rather pompous British comedian, announcing this week that Donald Trump, Elon Musk and J.D. Vance are fascists.
Yes, one can use rhetoric to suggest that this is peacemaking and that all that Donald Trump wants to do is end the war. But I think Zani is absolutely right. This is a new world. We are talking about a very extraordinary situation now where the bullies have risen to the top. And I've called it fascism because that's what it is. It's a cult of power.
Fascism, and he goes on to include Modi in India, Milei in Argentina, and Netanyahu in Israel. They're all in his gallery of fascists. Musk in particular has always seemed to irk Mr. Fry.
You were one of the first people out of Twitter.
Yes, because of him, exactly.
So just tell people why you left.
I began to see signs of woeful and worrying qualities in this Musk man, and I saw him veering off into the kind of You know, I don't want to use words like narcissistic personality disorder because I'm not a psychiatrist. But the kind of self-obsessed inability to take criticism that one sees in Trump.
Sounds dreadful, but Mr. Fry is not joking. But you see, that was always the problem with Stephen Fry, discerning the subtle nuances of his woke, sophisticated, enlightened and progressive sense of humour.
Glenn and I are having a conversation about a passage in Genesis which has been intriguing me rather.
Yes, it is fascinating, isn't it? Anyway, tell me about the size of your girlfriend's breasts.
Well, first of all, Glenn, let's clear up this problem of why God gave such a complex response to what is on the surface a relatively simple question.
Not as simple, though, as are they very big or only quite...
Were Mr. Fry to crack those gags today, he'd be arrested by Britain's thought police or certainly have his entire career cancelled. Because these days, the real fascist authoritarians can be found not in Washington, D.C., but in Britain and Europe itself. According to the Daily Mail, last week in Manchester, 2 British police officers turned up on the doorstep of a grandmother, Helen Jones. What had she done? 48 hours earlier, she had commented on Facebook that 2 local Labour councillors should resign for making comments on WhatsApp, basically hoping certain constituents would die before the next election. Charming stuff. But the British thought police came knocking on the door, not of the Labour councillors, no, can't do that, but on the door of the woman who had dared to criticise them. In the Labour stronghold of Greater Manchester, it's apparently an offence to criticise Labour. That, Mr. Fry, is real fascism. The police, OK, they've conceded that Mrs. Jones did not commit a crime, but a knock on the door? Really? Indeed, we also learnt this week that the UK police have revived their plans to allow transgender, i.e. biological male, officers to strip search women. Why wouldn't they? The police's Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Coordination Committee has agreed that male staff identifying as female will be able to intimately search women as long as they have a gender recognition certificate. But wait, there's more. According to The Telegraph, it's not just the police. The diversity and inclusion goons have been busy interfering with Britain's fire service, which they deem to be too male and too white. A report, which was commissioned by the National Fire Chiefs Council, says the fire service is institutionally racist, misogynist and homophobic, and firemen in Britain are not diverse enough. Fortunately, Mr. Fry isn't a fireman, or else somebody might have accused him of being misogynist or homophobic.
I don't know why I bother with the women. I'll be better off being a fruit, monk or a hermit or something. At least if I was a fag.
Yes, as I said, if Mr. Fry had made those comments these days, he'd be gone. Still, let's all criticise Donald Trump, shall we? You know, for his deplorable manners and his crude and his crass language.
Let's face it, we haven't slept together for years. You know, the best I can hope for is a bit of savoury finger.
But still, while we're on the topic of fires and firemen, toxic masculinity even, let's just have a look at the woman who could have been the US president instead of Donald Trump. Here she is, rehearsing for her own comedy show, I Dare, talking about the toxicity of fires. I particularly love the way the media all nod away obsequiously at the pearls of wisdom dripping from her lips.
What goes through your mind when you see this? You're here, you're now seeing it up close.
It's not only seeing it, Alex, you can smell it. You can feel it, right? So it's seeing it with our eyes, and many people have seen it. You all are covering it. But to literally be on the ground here, you can smell the smoke that was here. You can feel the toxicity, frankly, of the environment. You can feel the energy of all of the folks who are still here on the ground.
Could have been the president, and all those people were telling you and say, oh, she'd be really good. Let's end on a lighter note with my World's Gone Mad meme of the week and Joy Reid's sad farewell.
That what I was doing had value. And in the end, I try not to cry on TV.